All right, let's jump into another deep dive. Today, we're going to tackle the question that's on every football fan's mind right now. Is Liverpool truly unstoppable? Like, are we witnessing the start of some kind of crazy dominant era?
Well, to get to the bottom of that, we're going to be diving into a pretty awesome discussion between three absolute legends of the game: Stevie, Frank, and Robo.
You know, you can't get better analysis than from guys who've been there and done it at the highest level.
Yeah, they were breaking down Liverpool's recent Champions League match against Lille, and it's safe to say that this game sparked some pretty serious debate about where Liverpool stands in the football world right now.
For sure, and what's really crazy is they actually secured the top spot in their Champions League group with a 2-1 win over Lille, but they did it with a rotated squad.
Right, like some key players were rested for this one, which shows the ridiculous depth of this Liverpool team.
So for the listeners who aren't, totally immersed in football tactics, let's break down this idea of squad rotation for a sec.
Okay, so basically it means that the manager, in this case the brilliant Jurgen Klopp, has enough confidence in his squad to swap out some of his usual starting players for others who don't get as much game time. You know what I mean?
Right. So it's not just about having like a star-studded starting 11. It's about having talent and quality throughout the entire squad.
Exactly. And that's a massive advantage when you're fighting for trophies on multiple fronts, a long season like this.
And get this, Liverpool has won all 7 of their Champions League matches so far this season, and they've only conceded 2 goals. That kind of defensive record is almost unheard of at this level.
Absolutely. It speaks volumes about the tactical discipline that Klopp has instilled in this team.
I mean, Stevie and Frank were basically saying that this current Liverpool squad is the strongest they've seen in years.
Yeah, they were adamant that this team has no, glaring weaknesses in any position, which is scary for any opponent coming up against them.
And to really understand how significant that statement is, we need to consider the other top teams in Europe right now, right?
Totally. You look at other contenders like Barcelona, their defense has been a bit shaky this season. And even Man City, they haven't been dominating midfield the way they have in past years.
So you're saying that while other top teams have these clear weaknesses, Liverpool seems to have it all figured out at both ends of the pitch.
Exactly. And this lack of weakness is what sets them apart. It's why the question of unstoppable dominance is even being asked. But of course, football's unpredictable, so let's not get ahead of ourselves.
Right. But let's talk about the man at the helm, Jurgen Klopp. The pundits couldn't stop praising him and his impact on Liverpool.
I mean, he's taken them from a good team to a genuine title contender every single year.
It's amazing, and he's done it in an era where Pep Guardiola's Man City has set an incredibly high bar for everyone else in the league.
Yeah, and the pundits even compared Klopp's influence to Sir Alex Ferguson's at Manchester United.
And that raises a really interesting point. What happened to Manchester United after Ferguson retired?
Yeah, that's the million-dollar question, right? Can Liverpool maintain this level of success after Klopp eventually moves on?
I mean, we all saw how Manchester United struggled to stay at the top after Ferguson left.
Right, but the pundits were quick to point out that Klopp inherited a decent squad when he arrived, unlike the situation at United when Fergie left.
That's true, and he's also built a really strong foundation for the future. That winning mentality is ingrained in the club now.
Absolutely. So with their incredible form, the depth of the squad, and a world-class manager, it's no surprise that people are even talking about Liverpool potentially achieving the quadruple this season.
The quadruple, oh man, it's just saying, gives me chills.
Winning all 4 major trophies in a single season. The Premier League, the Champions League, the FA Cup, and the League Cup. It's the ultimate dream for any English club.
And for our listeners who might not be, totally up to speed on all the ins and outs of English football, let's quickly define what the quadruple actually means.
So it's basically winning every single major competition that's available to you in a season.
Which is an absolutely monumental task. I mean, no English team has ever achieved it before.
The pundits were pretty realistic about the difficulty of it. They even joked about which trophy they'd prefer if they had to choose the Premier League title or the Champions League.
Oh man, that's a tough one. But honestly, the fact that Liverpool is even in this conversation is a testament to their current form.
Yeah, they're playing with so much confidence and swagger right now. It's really exciting to watch.
And here's where this deep dive gets really interesting. We're not just analyzing matches and statistics.
Yeah, we're getting a glimpse into the culture of football, the personalities involved, and the stories that make this sport so captivating.
And the pundits definitely didn't hold back. They shared some hilarious anecdotes from their playing days, giving us a peek behind the curtain of professional football.
Oh, man. One story that stood out was about the Benfica manager.
Oh, yeah. What happened?
So after a loss, he made his players stand out in the pouring rain while he basically shouted at them for their performance.
Wow. Can you imagine being a player in that situation? I'm not sure I'd be too thrilled.
It's definitely a controversial tactic. Some might see it as tough love, others as public humiliation. But it sparked a really fascinating conversation about the different approaches to management and the psychological impact it has on players.
Yeah, I mean, Stevie and Frank, drawing on their own experience, both as players and managers, they were totally against this kind of approach.
They said that, you need to move on from a loss quickly and focus on the next game rather than dwelling on the negative.
And that different players respond to different motivational techniques.
Right. What might work for one player could backfire completely on another. So this incident really highlighted the complexity of leadership in professional sports.
Yeah, there's no one-size-fits-all approach, and finding the right balance is absolutely crucial for success.
And this is a perfect example of how this deep dive goes beyond those surface-level observations and really digs into the human element of the game.
It's not just about tactics and formations. It's about understanding the people behind the performances.
Exactly. And speaking of the people behind the performances, we got a little glimpse into Stevie's rather unique travel habits.
Oh, yeah. What was that?
Apparently, no matter where he went in the world, he always stuck to a very specific menu. Well-done steak and boiled potatoes?
No way. In every country. I mean, I admire his commitment to routine, but wouldn't that get a bit boring after a while?
Well, the thing is, for Stevie, it wasn't about culinary exploration. It was about minimizing risk. He even said, if you get it boiled, there's less chance of getting poisoned.
Okay, so maybe it's more about caution than culinary preference. I guess you can't fault him for wanting to stay healthy, especially during those important scouting trips. But it does paint a funny picture. Imagine him in some exotic location, surrounded by incredible local cuisine, and he's just there with his plate of boiled potatoes.
It's a classic Stevie moment, but it's not just about the food. It's about how we approach new experiences in general. Are we open to the unknown, or do we stick to what we know? It's a question that applies to all of us, both on and off the pitch.
So we've covered Liverpool's dominance, the impact of Klopp, the dream of a quadruple, and even got a taste of these football legends' personalities, but we've only scratched the surface.
Oh, there's so much more to unpack from this fascinating discussion.
We'll be back in a flash to delve even deeper into the world of football, exploring the pundits' insights on tactics, rivalries, and the passion that makes this sport a global phenomenon. Stay tuned. Welcome back. I'm still thinking about Stevie and his boiled potatoes. I mean, it's amazing how these little stories make these football giants seem so much more, like normal people.
Totally. It's like he humanizes them,
Yeah.
Reminds us that even the most, accomplished individual, they still have their own little quirks.
For sure. And the pundits actually delved into a topic that I found really fascinating. It was all about the mental side of the game, like how players deal with the pressure of those high stakes matches and those tough losses that can really stick with you.
Oh, yeah. They brought up a recent game between Benfica and Barcelona. It was a crazy one. Benfica were leading 4-2 and somehow ended up losing 5-4.
Oof. Talk about a roller coaster of emotions. I bet that was a tough one for Benfica to take.
For sure. It's those kinds of matches that really test a team's resilience, their mental toughness.
And that's where the pundits' insights are so valuable because they've been there, right? In those pressure cooker moments.
Exactly. They face that immense pressure, so they really understand the emotional roller coaster that players go through.
Farouk actually shared a story about a Chelsea-Manchester United match where they were down 5-0, but somehow managed to fight back to 5-4.
Oh, wow, what a game.
Can you imagine the emotional swing in that match? From utter despair to a glimmer of hope and then ultimately falling just short.
Yeah, it's incredible. And they talked about the mental strategies that players and teams use to cope with that kind of pressure.
It was like a masterclass in sports psychology. They talked about the importance of leadership, the role of the manager in keeping morale high, and that whole balance between celebrating victories and learning from defeat.
Right? It's like those lessons go way beyond football. We can all apply them to our own lives, like how to bounce back from setbacks, stay focused under pressure, and develop that winning mentality.
For sure. The pundits also highlighted a specific tactical approach used by Atletico Madrid. They're a team that's famous for their resilience and their ability to get results even when they're not playing their best football.
Yeah, Atletico are often described as a team that makes something out of nothing.
I like that.
They're masters of that defensive style, absorbing pressure and then hitting teams on the counterattack. They might not be the most exciting team to watch, but they're super effective.
And both Stevie and Robo were really impressed by this approach. They said they'd rarely seen a team do it so well.
And it kind of sparked this interesting debate about whether there's still a place for that kind of pragmatic, defense-first football in the modern game.
Yeah, in a sport that's so obsessed with attacking flair and goals, is there still room for a team that prioritizes tactical discipline and defensive solidity?
It's a great question.
Yeah.
What's more important, style or substance? I guess it depends on who you ask.
And that's what I love about these deep dives. We're not just getting a play-by-play analysis, We're exploring the bigger picture, the philosophical debates that make this sport so interesting.
It's like we're peeling back the layers and discovering something new every time.
Now, remember that controversial incident with the Benfica manager making his players stand in the rain after the loss?
Oh, yeah, the rain incident.
It definitely got people talking, and all three pundits were totally against it. They saw it as, public humiliation that wouldn't actually help the players.
Frank was pretty outspoken about it. He said that he would have flat out refused to stand in the rain and even questioned the manager's sanity.
Huh. Well, he's not known for holding back, is he? But on a serious note, it raised an important question about, the role of a manager and the best ways to motivate players.
Yeah, they talked about the importance of communication, empathy, and building trust with the players.
And also about accountability, but in a way that helps players learn and grow rather than just, shouting at them for mistakes.
It was really insightful to hear their perspectives on leadership, especially coming from guys who have experienced both sides of it as players and managers.
And then there was another funny moment that came up. Remember Stevie's insistence on well-done steak and boiled potatoes?
Oh, yeah. What about it?
Well, it turns out that even extended to his scouting trips with Paul.
No way. So even when they were in, South America or Africa, surrounded by all this amazing food, Stevie was still ordering his boiled potatoes.
Yep, he was convinced it was the only way to avoid food poisoning. Classic Stevie, cautious, predictable.
That's hilarious. I can just picture it now.
I know, right? Paul's out there trying all the local delicacies, and Stevie's got his plate of boiled potatoes looking like he's time traveled from the 1950s.
It's a great story, but it also highlights the different ways people approach new experiences. Some embrace the unknown, while others prefer to stick to what they know.
And both approaches have their merits. I guess it's about finding what works for you and being open to new things without, putting yourself at risk.
These conversations are so much deeper than just football analysis.
Yeah.
They're about life, about how we approach the world and the lessons we can learn from these amazing athletes.
And it's those human stories, those moments of triumph and struggle, the laughter and the tears that make football such a global phenomenon. It's about more than just kicking a ball around a pitch.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And you know what? We've got even more juicy insights and hilarious anecdotes to share in our final segment.
So stay tuned as we wrap up our deep dive with Stevie, Frank, and Robo, exploring even more about this amazing world of football. All right, welcome back to our final deep dive into the world of football. We've covered a lot of ground already, from tactical analysis to those hilarious stories, but there's one more big topic we need to tackle before we wrap things up.
And it's a debate that's been raging for years, Which trophy is more prestigious, the Premier League or the Champions League?
It's like asking someone to pick their favorite child, right? Both trophies are the pinnacle of success in football, but in different ways.
Exactly. The Premier League is like a marathon. It's a test of consistency and, being the best in your own country.
But the Champions League is like this epic battle against the best teams from all over Europe.
Yeah, you're fighting for continental supremacy with the whole world watching.
And as you can imagine, our pundits had some pretty strong opinions on this one.
Oh, yeah. Stevie, being a Premier League legend, he was firmly in the camp of the domestic title.
He was saying that to win the Premier League, you need that special combination of quality, depth, and consistency. You have to be at your best week after week against some of the best players in the world.
Frank, on the other hand, he leaned more towards the Champions League. He talked about that feeling of European glory, testing yourself against different styles of play from all these different leagues.
He was describing those electric Champions League nights, the pressure of knockout football, and that sense of history that comes with lifting that trophy.
And Robo being Robo, he took the diplomatic route.
Yeah, he acknowledged how important and prestigious both competitions are. Winning either one is an incredible achievement.
It's a debate that could go on forever, honestly, with valid arguments on both sides.
And that's what makes it so interesting, right? It shows that even within the world of football, there are different perspectives and priorities.
Totally. What matters most to one person might be completely different for someone else. And that's what makes this sport so great.
All right, so as we come to the end of our deep dive, I'm curious, where do we go from here? We've explored the current state of football, we've gotten insights from these legendary players, and tackled some of the biggest questions in the sport.
I think the biggest takeaway for me is that football is so much more than just a game.
Right, it's a reflection of our culture, our values, and, our shared human experience.
Exactly. We've laughed, we've learned, heck, we've even come to appreciate well-done steak and boiled potatoes.
But more importantly, I think we've been reminded of the power of football to connect us, to inspire us, and to spark these conversations that go beyond the pitch.
Couldn't agree more.
But I'm still left with one question. If Liverpool keeps playing like this, will they go down as one of the greatest teams of all time?
Well, I guess only time will tell. But
Yeah.
the way they're going right now, it certainly looks like they have the potential to become true legends.
And that's what keeps us coming back for more, isn't it? The future is full of possibilities.
For sure. There's always something new to discover in the world of football, whether it's tactical analysis or those amazing human stories.
So until next time, keep exploring, keep the passion alive, and never stop digging deeper into the game we all love.
Well said. See you next time.